Hi, this is Pocahontas Kelly with Siren, Special Agent Scully, and Waltzing Matilda, and you are listening to Bad Dog Agility, where the naughty dogs train.
I'm Esteban.
And I'm Sarah, and this is episode 142.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Back on Track. Dog agility is a demanding sport and can be difficult on the body, both the dogs and the humans. Back on Track specializes in dog blankets, beds, and wraps that keep muscles warm and reduce the pain in joints. If you've got a nagging knee, calf, or ankle injury, Back on Track's human products can help get you back in the ring. Visit Back on Track at backontrackproducts.com.
Today's podcast is also brought to you by 1TDC. 1-tetradecanol complex is a patented blend of unique fatty acid oils designed to safely and effectively keep joints and muscles at their best to maximize performance and shorten recovery time. 1TDC is the next generation of fatty acids beyond glucosamine and fish oil and is used by many current and past national agility champions and world team members. Bad Dog Agility listeners will automatically qualify for a great 1TDC special offer by purchasing online at BDA1TDC.com. That's BDA, the number 1, TDC.com. 1TDC makes dog athletes and pets happy. Don't wait, start today.
Today we're going to talk about a major development in the dog agility world, stunning in its speed and scope, and that is the discontinuation of the collapsed tunnel here in the United States, more commonly known as the Chute. Usually it's an obstacle that's designed with a barrel, like a rigid barrel made of plastic or metal. Not metal, I think. Plastic.
Plastic.
Almost all the time.
Yes.
And the barrel is very short, and there is a cloth, a chute, a material that extends from the barrel.
That the dog has to push through.
But he can't see.
And we need to describe this, because in 2 or 3 years, our listeners are going to come back and listen to this podcast, and they're not going to know what a chute is. We'll have to put a picture on as well.
That's right. So relegated to the history books. Right up there along with the crossover. And this is definitely worth talking about for a couple of different reasons. So first, we're going to quickly go through what happened on the 17th of August. So this is about, 2 weeks ago? Mm-hmm. Not quite 2 weeks ago. UK Agility here in the United States, I believe the branch is UKI, UK International, I for International. They host the US Open, and they are the gateway organization for the World Agility Open Championship, held every year. The founders, I believe, Greg and Laura Darrett. It's an organization that popped up several years ago. It's been steadily growing. And on the 17th, they announced, hey, we're not going to do the Chute anymore. Collapsed tunnel is out. And I think just a day or two later, they announced, oh, by the way, also WAO is not going to do the Chute either, which makes sense since the two organizations are right. They're in my mind, they're basically the same. You have the same leadership there, and one funnels to the other. And the very next day, you have a petition started by Joan Meyer. Now, Joan Meyer is a well-known, at least to me and to old-timers, competitor here in the United States in dog agility. She has competed at the European Open. She's been on the world team, the national championship finals for, USDA and AKC, very well-known Sheltie named Neil. She's, achieved many things in her career, and she's an instructor as well. Also a judge. So she is someone that when she puts together a petition and you see her name on it, it's, there's some credibility there just, from her, experience and credentials. Anyhow, she gets a petition started on the website change.org, and the petition is to get rid of the Chute.
In all organizations. An open call to all dog agility organizations. Let's get rid of the Chute.
Right. And as far as other organizations, nothing really happens until the 29th, which is yesterday. Okay, so suddenly, 12 days after UKA announces, the AKC, the American Kennel Club here in the United States, announces that they are no longer going to have the Chute, and it's going to be effective not at the start of 2017. It's effective
after this weekend. I mean,
this month.
Right.
September 1st,
right,
August 30th, last day. And
which is today. So like you have one day to have a show with the shoot.
So everybody who ordered brand new shoots for their club and your shoot is getting here Monday, you are very sad.
Only a little sad.
Only a little sad. And in any case, so that was stunning by itself. And we're going to backtrack 3 days. So on the 26th, 3 days before AKC announces this, a video goes up, and the video was created by Joan Meyer, and in it she shares her personal story of one of her dogs
with a lot of video.
Right. It's a 15-minute video that you can see on YouTube. We're going to provide you with a link to it on the show notes page. And it's a personal story about her dog's injury history that she believes is related to the Chute. And you'll be happy to know that the dog now finally is doing better. They've seen many doctors and went through a lot. So she is kind of builds the case for the medical dangers of the Chute, and also includes a ton of videos. Photos.
Well, photos and videos.
Photos and videos, right. But it's a montage of many still photos, so captures in time, of dogs in very awkward positions exiting the Chute, tangled up in the Chute, face on the floor, bodies contorted and twisted in ways that, don't look very comfortable at all. Some of the photos are, borderline disturbing, right? And that video goes up on the 26th. As of today, we just took a look at it. It has approximately 14,000 views. So it got in front of a fair number of agility people. So that video goes up on the 26th. The AKC announces the 29th. So that in itself is stunning because a lot of people perceive the American Kennel Club, and perhaps rightfully so, as a very classically organized organization, very hierarchical. And if you wanted to say, well, is it fast and mobile and quick to make decisions or a little bit slower? People say, the AKC thinks in years.
Right. And not that they wouldn't make a change, but that it would have to wait until the next board and then be voted and then be,
There's a board of directors. There are many representatives. It is a large organization with many people in it. There's a lot of voting and things that take place. There's a perception that it's at times hard to affect change. And that was stunning that they came out. Right?
Shocking.
So
to me.
Some people would say shocking. Just a mere 12 days after UK Agility, right? Put that out. So then the next stunning thing happens.
Like 2 hours later.
Just a few hours later, USDAA, which is here in the United States, some might think of them as a rival
of AKC,
but they actually share a very large population of competitors who compete widely in both, such as Joan Meyer. And on the very same day, USDA bans a tunnel. And
the Chute.
I keep saying the tunnel, but I mean the Chute.
Freak people out.
But I mean the Chute. Yes, the Chute. And
what's interesting about that is that USDAA, they still had the long Chute. So one change that AKC did make in the last several years was that they shortened the Chute.
And that's worth noting.
And so there were fewer tangle-ups and fewer, problems with it.
Right.
Not none, but fewer. But USDA still had the very, very long Chute where I think we get more of, the Chute getting completely pulled off and tangles and not just tumbles.
Right. There's a perception that the long Chute was more dangerous than the short Chute.
Right. So they hadn't even shortened it, and now they're just getting rid of it completely. So that's a big, they kind of leapfrogged that change.
Right. Right. And if some people think the AKC is slow to make changes, there are other people who think USDA just never makes changes. And for both organizations to come in on the same day, obviously, one somewhat influencing the other, is a big deal. And IFCS, which is kind of the international conglomeration of USDAA type countries, they have an international event. They used to have it every 2 years. Now they're trying to do it every year. It's, IFCS is to USDAA what the WAO is to UK Agility.
What FCI
and what FCI would be to FCI is a little bit different because the AKC is not actually a member.
Right.
And neither is the Kennel Club, but we will get to the Kennel Club in just a second. But in any case, the USDA, IFCS, it would make sense that one would follow the other. Here in the United States, teacup dogs, right? The TDAA also fell in line. And yet another shocker, right? Turns out the KC, the Kennel Club, so this is in Great Britain, right? Kennel Club is who's responsible for fielding Great Britain's European Open team and their Agility World Championship team, and they go and compete at that event. So they ban the Chute.
Today, I believe.
Today. And Canada also follows suit, right? AAC. So you're looking at Canada, Great Britain, United States.
Two major organizations in the United States.
Two major organizations in the United States and UK Agility.
And
Teacup. All in basically the same
48
day
hours.
Or two, same span, which is stunning. Have you ever seen all the major agility organizations within that short of time do anything all at once?
Never.
So this is unprecedented.
At least in my career in agility, I have never seen anything like this.
Yeah. So that is very, very interesting. Now, I think now I'll just say very personally that I'm not sad to see it go. I think it's probably a good thing that the Chute is gone. As a competitor, the Chute was not something that bothers any of the dogs that I'm running now. I will tell you that when video analysis first came out, when they first started doing side-by-sides, they had a very cool side-by-side of a Rottweiler I ran, Sammy, in a very big event. It was the AKC National Championship. I believe it was in 2008, and we were running up against a very, very good Border Collie who was on the world team, I believe, that year. And stride for stride, Sammy is running with this dog, this large Border Collie. And on the turn, Sammy is beating her. But we just barely lost. I could not figure out why until they hit the Chute. They hit the Chute. You see my dog duck in, and you see the Border Collie come out faster. Okay, so my dog has to duck in, and then I went back and looked at all the videos and did a million side-by-sides. And it turned out that for every single Chute, she would lose approximately 5 to 7 tenths of a second to any similarly speeded Border Collie. Okay, so this had nothing to do with my skill as a handler, her ability as a dog. This was just equipment specification that gave one dog an advantage over another for no good reason.
But in your case, this had more to do with size than with the fact that it's a Chute, right?
We don't know. Right?
So it could just be like body type.
What if her
ducking down versus not ducking down?
And what if what if something about her body type, mass, center of gravity caused her to slip and turn less well out of Chutes? Mm-hmm. Right? We don't know. I never thought of it as a big deal because she's so big. I felt like she was less likely to get tangled in it than say an 8-pound Papillon or something, right? And you're like, well, the big dog, they're going to push through it. So, in my view, there's kind of the two reasons. By far, the more important reason is dog safety. Right. But I'm not sad to see it go. But I always have the vestige of having been a large dog handler. And I feel that there are many, many fine large dogs out there who could be highly competitive at the biggest, toughest, strongest events against the best dogs if only some of the equipment specs were a little bit different. But that's my thought on the Chute. So I'm glad to see it go.
Well, everybody's going to be sharing their remember when Chute stories for a while. And a lot of them are going to be, not fun to hear, right? Injuries and problems with dogs. So I thought I would share a more just amusing story about my own experience with the Chute. And that is that my miniature Australian Shepherd, Denver, who is now 15 years old, the Chute was the last obstacle that he had to master in terms of individual obstacle performance. The last thing keeping him from finishing a standard course. And so I remember at his debut weekend running jumpers and then running standard, and he went in the barrel and turned around and came out. He said, nope, I'm not going to do that Chute. And this is the long Chute because this is way back when. And then next run, nope, wasn't going to do it. Final run, I'm cheerleading the entire way, and he ooches like inch by inch through the fabric and pops out, and I'm screaming and yelling like a fool, because I'm a novice handler and a novice dog and very excited to get my first standard cue. So that was my amusing Chute story for the audience.
Very nice. Well, now that we've shared our personal memorable stories about the Chute, we can move on a little bit to talking about, well, why is this a big deal and what exactly happened? So we've kind of given you all the facts, But what really happened here, we think, is a result of social media. So this is where people are going to throw around the phrase, the power of social media. A lot of people on Facebook, of course, are going to take credit for being the initiator.
Instigator.
The instigator. And it may be that there was, one person, and certainly I think Joan Myers would be a fine candidate here for having, kind of organized things or got things rolling, or, you can view them as a catalyst. But I think the thing that was unique here is just that there were so many different people involved. And let me give you an example. As of right now, when we're taping this podcast, 4,324 signatures with numerous comments on the petition at change.org. And the video, which I told you was 15 minutes long that Joan put together, is actually only about 8 minutes long. The last 7 minutes is them just scrolling through all the comments. And that is what we call a form of social proof. It shows whoever's watching the video, presumably the leadership of the organizations, of all these dog agility organizations, that people aren't just clicking like on Facebook because there's a cute picture of a dog here. This is something that they believe in enough that they left a comment about their bad experience or why they think the Chute should be banned. And so what you had here was the right conditions causing what you could call like a viral cascade, right, of events, just a domino effect where one agility after the other adopts the ban.
I think it's also interesting and worth noting that she did put this petition on change.org, because there are plenty of things that people would like to see changed in agility. And people talk about them on Facebook all the time. But here was something that, number one, the primary issue was safety, rather than the primary issue being fairness. The problem with fairness is that every change is going to be better for one group and worse for another. But with safety, that's much more difficult to argue with. But I did think it was interesting that she promoted it on Facebook, sure. It was shared on Facebook, sure. But the primary place was change.org, which it puts you in a mindset that this is a grassroots kind of effort going on.
Right. When you have 4,300 something signatures, it's unlikely that Joan has 4,300 close personal friends who all have had bad experiences with the Chute that were willing to go and sign the organization. You're going to have many pockets of people, and within those pockets, some people have had bad experiences with the Chute, and they're going to come out, and all these people are linked together. And that is the power of social media, tying all these people in a network. And I think here, agility organizations are showing some mobility and some understanding of the potential impact of that, because the bottom line for these organizations is not just the fun and awesomeness of agility, not just the safety of the dogs, but there's also a business aspect. And certainly I don't think it's any coincidence that they all fell like dominoes. One thing to remember, at least here in the United States, that the AKC is de facto the major player in dog agility right now. And there was a time when they were the newcomer, the new kid on the block, right? USDA having been entrenched there for a couple of years. And now UK agility, UKI, they're the new kids on the block here in the United States, having been around for several years. And let me paint this narrative. Let's say the AKC had dawdled on this and they're like, okay, we're going to start this January. Maybe there's a small group of people who are like, well, we're not waiting until January. We're going to stop showing AKC if they haven't already. And
there already were people saying that.
Yeah. So we're going to go do UKI. Okay. Well, now UKI has to put on a couple more shows, right? A couple new locations. They're generating a little bit more interest. And now you're 10 years down the road and you go to Wikipedia and you look up UKI. Oh, UKI. Now the number one agility organization in the United States can trace its roots back to such and such a year. 5 years after slow growth, they suddenly became the first organization in North America to ban the Chute. There was a migration of early adopters. They brought their friends with them. 3 years later, they took over, the number one organization spot and so on and so forth. And all of these elements kind of tie together. You see dog agility as business, dog agility as sport, the dog agility community as a social network, and even our podcast audience as a big part of that community, and that they're all interrelated. And so very, very interesting. This is what, I would call an inflection point. Or a very key point in the history of the sport. Now, where we go from here, I'm not sure. And I'll say that for a couple of reasons, because this shows you the power, right? Quote unquote power of social media. There will be, if there haven't already been, calls for the banning of other obstacles. There will be calls for the modification of other obstacles.
Or rules or anything.
Right.
Yes.
And
there already have been. Right.
And remember that there have already been noise from people about how international handling, doing backsides, are physically dangerous to the dog. Okay. It is not going to be hard for anybody out there to put together a YouTube video showing photos of dogs in awkward positions, landings, jumping early, jumping late, smashing uprights, and blaming it on a particular maneuver required, a different piece of equipment. In particular, I think as far as actual potential long-term chronic damage to dogs, you got to think about the weave poles. Just the very unnatural, what I would call unnatural movement of the spine. Is agility still agility 10 years from now if there are no weave poles?
Well, it's an interesting aspect because there is no way to make agility safe because it is a sport.
100% injury-free.
100% injury-free.
Can't happen. It's basically a part of the defining characteristic of a sport. Oh, yes, and of life.
Yeah,
I'll say that.
Right.
But so you do want to do your absolute best.
You do want to do your best. So
to minimize the risk of injury.
But that's the deal, right? If you know it can never be 100% safe, you also know that there are things that are highly risky, and we could put the Chute in this category, right? So one of the ways to look at this domino effect is to say the Chute fell so squarely on the unsafe side of the spectrum that all of the organizations felt good and easy about letting it go.
And I'm going to stop you right there. If that were true, why did they all do it within 48 hours of each other, except for UKI? Well, and there's one organization that did it years ago. And people essentially just laughed at them and said, you guys aren't real agility, right?
Yep.
NADAC here in the United States.
Yes. They went a completely different direction. That's true.
They did. And now they should be thinking, oh, UKI, the early adopter, first one? No. We did this years ago.
Right.
We really had an eye on the dog's safety.
Right.
So,
and yet that picture that you painted,
there's a little cynicism here.
That's true, but that picture that you painted about what could have happened if AKC hadn't fallen in line, and then USDA, and then Canada, and then KC, about how you'd look up on Wikipedia and it would talk about how UKI exploded after they got rid of the Chute.
Well, that's the other thing, because
it didn't happen for NADAC.
Right, and UK agility is a direct competitor of the Kennel Club.
Yes.
Right. So someone had mentioned to me that they were surprised or more impressed that the Kennel Club was so quick to do it. A little surprising. But then when you think about it that way,
it added pressure.
That the introduction of UK agility into that agility ecosystem has had a profound impact on the way KC conducts business.
Absolutely.
Not surprising.
And we had Greg and Laura Darrett on our podcast years ago, and we were talking about UK and UKI, and they were talking about the differences between them and the Kennel Club and the changes that they were making. I think at the time it was jump heights that were going to be different for their organization versus the Kennel Club. And between Greg and I can't remember which of us said it, or maybe we both said it in different ways, we essentially, in the wrap up, we're talking about, well, competition is good for everybody. In this case, business competition is good for everybody. And I thought of that little soundbite just today when I saw that the Kennel Club had made that change as well. And when I thought about UKI kind of starting all of this a couple of weeks ago, is that is the power of competition, that you can have one organization putting pressure on another, and that not only are the organizations doing it, but all of the people that support those organizations are doing it. So by the feedback that we give, to these organizations every time they make this change, that informs the next organization. Right, as they watch what's happening.
Right. So all of that is very interesting. And, if you're going to thank anyone, there's probably lots of conversations that happen that we don't know about. I think it's a little too easy just to thank people who had been outspoken or posting things on Facebook. When I look at what Joan put together, which was researched and personal, and you and I both know it takes time to put together YouTube stuff and put yourself out there. Right.
And disturbing.
Right.
So I think that one other point that I wanted to make about the agility organizations is that I think in the agility world, there is a bit of a uniqueness to the business aspect. And that is, I believe the vast majority of leadership in all of these organizations are dog lovers. I don't think these people just put together a business. They don't like or care about dogs and and it doesn't affect them when they see a video like that. So I don't know that video is what caused such swift action. All we know is the timeline.
I don't know that every member of the AKC board each personally watched the video.
I don't know that, but what we do know is that her petition went out the day after UKI made their announcement.
Yes.
It had been out for, a week or so. Her video comes out to kind of further support the petition. And then 2 days later, everything goes crazy. Mm-hmm. And so I think that there is a visual impact to those images, that could be in play here. I don't know but I think that there's an element of that.
Right. And, I think, as we've said before, at the core of this is your dog's safety.
I think there's also some interesting follow-on effects that we're going to see. And one of those that people have mentioned is course design, because the Chute was yet another obstacle where designers had very little leeway on where or how they could use it. They needed the approach to be a certain way. They needed the exit to be a certain way. They needed to account for judging it. And so, you remove that particular obstacle, that bit of complexity, and you may replace it with some more interesting design elements.
Right. So I think that'll be interesting there. I think, it won't be very long before no one misses the Chute at all. So for myself, there's some obstacles I think competition-wise I would get rid of because I feel like they don't add much. For example, the table. And I feel like they discriminate against, certain types of dogs. In this case, large dogs that have a hard time fitting their whole body on the table. I don't know that the tire adds very much. And that's something that we haven't talked about at all. But remember that there was a very similar campaign for the tire until they came away with the breakaway tire. And if you look at the wording that was used on the statement for these Chutes, it's, we are going to suspend the Chute until there comes about some kind of safe design.
Right.
Right. So I don't know that anyone's going to bother trying to find a safe design. I think people you're going to find, you don't really miss it.
Right.
So I guess the tire got some benefit there from developing the breakaway tire, but the tire personally isn't something I think that adds much or would be missed. The table, the only thing I'm going to say now, and I think I've said it in a couple other places, but it's to me totally worth noting. I would love to see larger tunnels. A lot of stuff we do, like the Chute and stuff, they're remnants of early agility. Like, why is the dog walk 12 inches wide? Well, it's probably the size the plank came in when they were first building this equipment, right? Is it possible that we could now make the dog walk 16 inches wide and have that become the new standard? I think so. And I think that's something they should look at. But, getting back to my point, the tunnel is something that I would like to see bigger, specifically for large dogs. I don't see why a 18-inch or 19-inch border collie should have all the advantage of being able to bank off a tunnel, while a 23-inch whatever golden retriever, Rottweiler, has to duck down and kind of can't get through there as quickly.
Well, I think that there are plenty of changes across the sport of agility that we could be looking at. And I think that we always should look at how we can improve the sport, both in safety and in fairness. But I don't think that we're going to see the same kind of rapid assimilation across multiple organizations that we saw with the Chute. And already people are bringing up all of their favorite changes that they'd like to see made. And there's a floodgate open by the organizations that, hey, if we make enough noise, if we, the competitors, make enough noise, we can get things changed very quickly. But I'm just not sure that we're going to see it happen in that same way again. But I do think, striving to make the sport better is a worthy goal. And that's it for this week's podcast. Today's podcast was also brought to you by NTI Global. Visit NTI Global for the widest selection of dog agility tunnels for both competition and backyard training. Known for free shipping, more options, high-quality products, and low prices, NTI Global has got you covered. They also offer chutes, tunnel chutes, tamer, and anchor weight bags, along with a full line of accessories and agility storage solutions. Need your agility gear in a hurry? Don't forget to check the in-stock selection. Use promo code BADDOG5 for 5% off. You'll find links to all of our sponsors, NTI Global, Elite Science, 1TDC, and Back on Track at our show notes page at baddogagility.com/142. Happy training!